Tyler from Aspire Sports, and who were some of the top plays for week 6 of the fantasy football season. I'm going to give you guys that should be in your starting lineups now, depending on how loaded you are, but these are guys that should be in your starting lineups, have really good matchups, and will perform really well this upcoming weekend. I make new content like this every single day, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. And with that being said, let's get into the video. The first player is going to be James Robinson, and this may seem obvious to some people out there, but I'm getting a lot of questions about James Robinson, and he needs to be in your starting lineup every single week. He is an RB1. This is James Robinson of last year. You fire him up. He is a bell cow running back in an offense that's not going to be that good this year, but they're going to have to pass the ball. He runs routes. He's seeing red zone work. He's getting carries. He looks good doing it as well. Fire up James Robinson every single week as an RB1. No questions asked. So the first guy, James Robinson. The next player on the list is going to be Myles Gaskin. And last week against Tampa Bay, when nobody played him, he went off. Now, should you play him this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars? For me, yes. Jacksonville is currently giving up the 5th most points to the running back position. He's probably going to get Tua back this week, which will be an upgrade for this offense. You have Devontae Parker, might not play again. Will Fuller's out, so they're missing receiving options, and that's why he had 10 targets this past weekend as well. He is a guy that I would be playing this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So fire him up. He's a top 20 play at the running back position. The next guy on the list is going to be Zach Moss. And last weekend against the Kansas City Chiefs, it was a little bit of a disappointing game from him, especially because it was a really good matchup, and this team scored a lot of points. This upcoming week, though, against Tennessee, who's average against running backs, I expect them to bounce back. This offense is going to put up a lot of points once again, and right now he looks to be the lead back in this offense. Last week, he played 75% of this team's snaps. Since week 2, because he was inactive in week 1, he's been RB number 14, and he's 6 in red zone attempts. 6 in red zone attempts. He's seeing the red zone work. He's seeing receiving work on one of the league's best offense, if not the best offense in the NFL right now. Zach Moss is a top 20 play for the rest of the time until we start to see his snaps go down. So this upcoming week, though, he's a top 20 play at the running back position. The next guy for me, and there's actually going to be a duo, it's going to be Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. With Juju Smith-Schuster out for season now, both these guys get a bump in my rankings for the season. Right now, you have both them playing against the Seattle Seahawks, who Seattle's currently giving up the 7th most points to the wide receiver position. I expect both these guys to have a really solid week. They're both inside my top 20 right now, with Deontay Johnson being in wide receiver 1 this week against Seattle. Big Ben's going to rely on these two guys a lot. Expect a very healthy dose of targets for both these guys this week. So Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. The next guy on the list is going to be Emmanuel Sanders. And Emmanuel Sanders is a top 20 wide receiver right now in fantasy football. And he's actually has scored more points than Stephon Diggs has this season. Here's the thing that you do. You start your wide receivers versus the Tennessee Titans. Last week, Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, they were very disappointing against Tennessee, but don't expect the same thing to happen for these wide receivers. Fire up Emmanuel Sanders. For me, he's a borderline top 20 play at the wide receiver position right now. I love him this week. Tennessee is currently giving up the most points to the wide receiver position, so fire him up. He's a great play this week. Next is going to be Brandin Cooks. And I know that the past 2 weeks have not been very good for Brandin Cooks, but that means he's due for a solid game this upcoming week against the Indianapolis Colts, who Indianapolis right now are giving up the 8th most points to the wide receiver position. And Davis Mills actually looked pretty solid last week against New England. In New England, we know Bill Belichick has a history of beating up on rookie quarterbacks. So it was encouraging to me to see Davis Mills actually play really well in that game. And I think going forward, that's a good sign for Houston possibly. Now, can he do it this week against Indianapolis? We'll have to see. But Brandin Cooks, the best wide receiver, the best offensive player on this team still by far. I expect him to be involved in this offense heavily. And right now, the Indianapolis Colts have given up a touchdown to the wide receiver position every single week. They've actually given up 2 touchdowns every single game, other than against the Miami Dolphins. That was the first time that they haven't all season long. So Brandin Cooks should have a breakout game here against the Indianapolis Colts. So fire him up. The next player on the list is going to be Mike Gesicki. And Mike Gesicki gets the Jacksonville Jaguars. And last week it was a little bit disappointing. He had 7 targets, 4 catches for 43 yards. So it wasn't the best, especially from what he was putting up the past 2 weeks. But no, he should get Tua back in this offense. I don't know if Devontae Parker is going to play this week. And if he doesn't, really, they're already down Will Fuller. So expect a heavy dose for Mike Gesicki against the Jacksonville Jaguars that are currently giving up the 8th most points to the tight end position. I've been very high on Mike Gesicki all season long. We're seeing his snap share go up and up, so expect big things from Mike Gesicki this upcoming week. He's honestly, if Devontae Parker is out, he's a borderline top 5 play at the tight end position for me this week. Next is going to be Dan Arnold. Now, I don't think he's an absolute must start, but if you need tight end help, he can absolutely be your guy. 2 weeks ago, he gets traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it was basically like 2 days later is when he played Cincinnati. He had 2 catches, 29 yards in that game. And then last week, he gets a little bit of time with his offense. Last week, he leads the team in targets, receptions, and yards. Targets, receptions, and yards. He is your long-term solution at the tight end position if you're struggling there right now. This upcoming week gets the Miami Dolphins, who is just an average matchup against the Dolphins. But I really like this game, I guess. But Dan Arnold, for me, for season long, if you need a tight end, look at Dan Arnold. He's your guy. So Dan Arnold, the next guy. The next guy on the list is going to be Taylor Heinicke. And really, Taylor Heinicke, since he's taken over for Ryan Fitzpatrick, has been really solid. This upcoming week gets the Kansas City Chiefs, who are giving up the 2nd most points to the quarterback position. This team should be playing from behind, so they're going to need Taylor Heinicke to throw the ball a lot. And when they get in close, he's always a threat to run it in with his legs as well. He has some ability with his legs, where last week he rushed 5 times for 40 yards. So he has that upside too. So this upcoming week in a really good matchup that they really should be playing from behind, Taylor Heinicke is a top 12 quarterback for me this week. The next guy on the list for me is going to be Carson Wentz. And so far this season, Carson Wentz has not looked that bad. Monday night against the Baltimore Ravens, he threw for over 400 yards. Now gets a good matchup against the Houston Texans, who are below average against the quarterback position so far this year. So Carson Wentz is a streaming option if you need somebody this week as well. And that does it. If you have any questions, drop them down below. Hit that subscribe button, like. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.